And here we go. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, as you probably know, is a weekly tradition that many that many cooking channels on YouTube like to do on a Wednesday, and that they do a cast iron video uh, just to have something to do and to fill the time and to make a fun tradition of looking forward to Cast Iron Wednesday, where they do videos about cooking cast iron, or talking about, or collecting, or restoring cast iron. And that's what we've been doing here on this channel now for more than 2.5 years somehow. Uh, I'm very grateful that people have been showing up here on Cast Iron Wednesday, to the point where we actually have a number of regular names here. And again, it makes this channel a lot of fun, and I can have you folks here to thank for that. So thank you, everybody, as always, for showing up. I mean, hello to all the folks who I see here every week, and some who I don't. Hello to Papa Dan and Val's Black Cats Rules, Terry Sinchek, Cynthia Wesley, Kay Clock, Kimberly Miller, Alma Wasilewski, and so many others. Oh, good. You just got notified. Okay, good. I don't control those YouTube notifications, unfortunately, and I know all too well. Let me move this chair out of the way. I know all too well that for some people, it seems like these notifications show up too late. I know that's happened to me a few times on some channels that I follow, and when that happens, I mean, I really can't do anything other than apologize for that. But nonetheless, here we are once again, and here once again I get to show off, more or less, my collection that I've been building for the past 12 years. Oh, good grief, going on 13 actually. This is not all of my collection. I have another rack over there in the kitchen, and that's where at the moment I keep most of my enamel cast iron, among some other things. But here is where I've been slowly building up, well, what can I say? A collection of vintage and modern cast iron here. And hello, RT Scott. Scored 2 BSRs, a 5 and an 8th century series. Well, congratulations. You've got a couple of really good workhorses for the kitchen then. You can be sure that you'll be able to get a lot of use out of them. I mean, everybody knows, or it says, and I can vouch for it, that BSNR is definitely a real a real powerhouse in the kitchen. Uh, Once you start cooking in a number 8 size BSNR cast iron pan, that will probably never leave your stove, and I can certainly agree with that. I love that huge kettle. Well, thank you very much, Randy. Yes, this, of course, is the 15-gallon cast iron cauldron that I was lucky enough to acquire, and that is probably my oldest piece as well as my biggest one, in that it likely dates to maybe around the middle 1800s or so. I had initially thought that it might have been more like the early 1800s, but somebody pointed out that it seems more likely it's probably from the middle 1800s, which is still nothing to complain about as far as I'm concerned. So, looking forward to the opportunity to use that pot again. And K Clock, I missed how the corned beef turned out. Was it a hit with the guests? Oh, well, I would think so. Yes, they certainly enjoyed it. In fact, they took a ton of it home as well. So they've probably been eating almost nothing but corned beef for the last week. And well, actually, we're already almost a month past St. Patrick's Day. So hopefully the corned beef is all done by then. So Papa Dan, it's been raining here today. Predicted my community would have 4 inches of rain by Friday afternoon. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, but do be careful. Tell us about your Lady Best skillet. My grandmother had said, okay, well, here's one way to start. One person on my channel here actually sent me a message saying that he actually wanted to send this to me, and I offered to pay for it, but he actually insisted. So, who was I to say no, especially for something as nice as this? But yes, here it is, actually. And after all these years of looking for one, I was never able to find a BSR Lady Best skillet myself. And if you check this out, it does certainly look nice here. The handle is very long, and I'm pretty sure they made one single size handle for all of their pans no matter how big or small they were. And the interesting thing about this is that it was supposedly designed to look like vintage cast iron, although ironically, it's not compatible at all with vintage cast iron. First of all, it's incredibly small for the most part. This thing here says, for instance, it says size 6 on the back, but it is definitely not the same as a number 6 size cast iron skillet. It means that this thing is 6 inches in diameter on the top, and that's even smaller than a number 3 size Lady Bess. But even so, this thing here has an interesting handle, which has this fish shape in the handle that we did see with some vintage cast iron pans. It's completely flat. It does not have a heat ring here, although it does seem to have this little ridge on the outside, which really means it would be good for cooking on a flat top stove. It's also very thick and heavy. I might say, I'm not sure if it's because of the weight of this handle as well, but I would say that this number 6 or 6 inch Lady Best skillet is probably heavier than a number 3 size BSR cast iron skillet. So yeah, this thing's definitely thick. It's got a nice quality to the handle too. So um, how's the peppers? What's the small pot hanging on the corner underneath with the tag? Oh, I see. Well, the this actually is not a tag. This is this is the poiki, the South African poiki pot here. This is a little flyer my friends left here, and I've had standing here. Basically, it's an advertisement for, as I mentioned already, I'm going for Subgenius X Day, which is going to be happening around the beginning of June or so. I'll get into that a little later, I think. But nonetheless, what we have here is, in fact, as I said, this is the South African poiki here. But before I go to that, what does Lady Bess mean? Well, um, it's a name that BSNR came up with for to kind of associate this pan with the 1976 American Bicentennial, because supposedly it was marketed in that manner as a way to celebrate the bicentennial, and I'm not entirely sure the meaning behind Lady Bess. I'm afraid I looked, but there really isn't a lot of detail about that. I mean, I can't think of anybody from from history really that would have had a name like that. I mean, I know things like Martha Washington, for instance, but I'm not so sure about why they would have called this Lady Bess. But nonetheless, this is one of that series. Although I'm probably just one hump, not two. Um, there is no flag on this, unfortunately. However, there is one thing I should show, folks. You know, I mentioned already that after all these years of searching for a Lady Best pan, I was never able to find one until I was gifted this by a member of this YouTube channel. And yet, of course, what can I say? But only like maybe a couple of days after that came in the mail, what would I happen to come across but another Lady Best pot? I was as surprised as anyone. And this one is definitely not in as good condition as that other one was either. However, it's actually a sauce pot. This is still from the Lady Best series. And if we look on the back here, it does say made in USA here, and it actually says number 6 again. So it's the same width and diameter, and it says saucepan along with a mold mark on it, and I think a model number as well. This is the mold ID mark that BSR used for their pans in the 70s. This is roughly about 1 quart in size, I think. And actually, I've had a need rather, for a 1 quart cast iron saucepan. So I was actually very happy to acquire this one as well. So but yeah, as I said, I looked all that time, never found one, and then of course this happened to show up only a couple of days or so after that one showed up. There's no surprise. If you'll notice, the handle is definitely a lot more worn and in much poorer condition than that other one was. So for that reason, I'm debating on how to restore this. First of all, let's actually unscrew this thing, because this apparently is how you can actually restore a Lady Best pan. it's just like those made in Taiwan cast iron skillets that a lot of people know about. In that this thing unscrews completely. I really hope I don't have to unscrew it all the way. No, it looks like it's coming off already. And maybe a couple more twists, and there we go. So here's what it looks like with it screwed off. You notice this little tab here, this tiny little tab. Let me try to get some. How can we do this? There we go. Yeah, this little thing sticking up here. That actually appears to be a tab to help hold in the pan the handle so that it doesn't spin, especially when you pick it up, so that you can actually tilt it. But it's definitely not in as good condition. The wood here, as I said, a lot of the outer finish is worn away, so I've been a bit debating how I'm going to restore this. I'm first of all, I guess I'm going to have to sand it down and get it back to the bare wood, and then I'm debating whether or not I might want to stain it, or maybe just simply use linseed oil and just really leave it in its natural condition. So anyway, again, there's a little hole here for this tiny little tab. And let's get this back on. There we go. Yeah, and the hole actually helps as well, as I found out, to screw this thing. The tab helps to screw this thing on too. It holds it in position. But largely because of that little tab, that's one reason why. Almost done with this. That's one reason why you can actually tilt this thing from side to side. I had a Taiwan saucepan that actually, unfortunately, the screw was getting all loose on the inside, and anytime I held it up, it would just simply sink back into this position. So you got a little get you a little washer to go with it. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. I would agree with that. That would probably help as well to keep it preserved. So, but yeah, this is yet another restoration project that I definitely have to do. Oh, and one more thing. This is a spinner too. Even though it's still thick and heavy, this thing was definitely put through some abuse because just that it is in fact slightly warped and it does spin on a flat surface. The other one doesn't. So, I'm sorry to hear about Papa Dan. My condolences there. But anyway, yeah, BSNR made these supposedly for the 1976 bicentennial, but they didn't only market them for 1 year. I gather they were actually in production and in the market for about 4 years or so, and so they were finally taken off the market by maybe 1980 or so. The other thing, as I found out, is that about 10 years ago, near the end of BSNR's life, they actually put this back into production under a completely different name, and they called it Brio. That's Con and Brio, and I don't know what that means either. Apparently, it was only marketed on the West Coast, in fact. The big difference there is even though the pots were exactly the same, with that one, they used porcelain handles rather than wooden handles, probably because they would have been cheaper then. So, yeah, I know in the last years near the end of their lives, unfortunately, BSR, they were scrambling for cash, regrettably. But that's really another story. So yeah. So again, I happen to have now not one but two Lady Best Pans to add to my collection. So that's something I'm actually quite happy about. Um, Whoops, I just moved the screen around unintentionally. There we go. And other than that, I'm going to try surgeons for, okay. Jimmy Langford. Hello, everyone. I just picked up a BSNR 3-quart pot on Monday for $3. Holy cow. You definitely got yourself a score there. I wouldn't be surprised if it probably doesn't have a lid, but even so, $3. And those 3-quart pots were not that common either. So I would indeed say you got yourself a nice little score there. So congratulations on that. Did they all have glass lids or cast? My understanding is that they actually used glass lids on the Lady Best series. I mean, consider it. that they were not compatible at all with anything made by BS&R. Oh yeah, the other thing about glass lids is that I feel it's almost certain that BS&R ordered those glass lids from a third party supplier, from a glassware manufacturer, because it I mean I do not recall ever hearing about BS&R building their own glassware foundry, which would have been a major investment and a major task in itself. Just to make glass lids, that really doesn't seem likely. It's much more likely, almost certain, in fact, that they ordered their lids from a third party supplier. So, but yes, they were glass lids, because apparently glass lids were really a big deal in the 1960s and 1970s. So, even to the point where Wagner pretty much stopped making cast iron lids and were only making or doing glass lids. And I think they did have a glassware in Wagner, glass lids for their pans. So my thrift store glass lid fits like a glove. Yes, that's the best way really to find glass lids for any of those pans, regardless of what size it is. I mean, it may take a little bit of searching to find an exact fit, but there are so many of them out there that it seems almost certain that eventually you will find a glass lid to fit it. Maybe not a vintage one, but it's still a glass lid. So leave no lid behind. Yes, that is one of the kind of like the unspoken rules of the cast iron treasure hunt, in that you always snatch up stray lids if you can find them. And if you can afford them, of course, because lids are rare. I mean, many people would rather not spend the extra money for a set with a lid when all they needed was a frying pan. And usually the lids would be among the first things that people would lose. So lids are rare in the cast iron hunt, and that's why pretty much it's always a good idea to grab them, because you never know what you might find. I mean, heck, right here, in fact, I have and this is yet another thing I still have to restore. This, in fact, is a BS&R lid for a 3-quart pot. Gee, what a coincidence there. It's also definitely newer Century series, because you can tell it has that tab lid as well. But it is definitely a 3-quart. And I have a couple of other lids as well. All right. Yeah, getting on with it. I don't know. Got another Grizz Lid for a sauce pot. Really? Oh, congratulations on that. So yeah, I remember lids back in the 70s. Is that your entire collection, or do you have more? As a matter of fact, I do have more. Because among other things, over in my kitchen, I have another rack, and that rack actually has most of my enamelware and some of my bakeware on it as well. So yes, there is still more of it over there in the kitchen. I'm sorry to say, but my camera is kind of static, I'm afraid, and so I'm afraid I can't move it directly. Well, I could move it, but it would take some effort. So, Rocket Caver, I found a number 9 Lodge lid a few weeks ago and grabbed it. Well, congratulations, and that's exactly why you grab up spare lids if you can. So, Terry Sinchef, I found a glass lid that fits my Wagner Dutch oven and my single notch lodge. My single notch lodge. And well, again, and congratulations on that. I don't think Lodge ever changed the sizes of their lids of their pans throughout the entire history of their company, which means that a modern day Lodge lid would still fit even like, say, an ARC logo or a single notch Lodge. So that's actually quite convenient there in itself. Hmm. Right. And yeah, in fact, right here, as a matter of fact, here is a Lodge lid that it does say 10 and a quarter on it, but it does not have the Lodge logo on it. So I think it might be, well, I don't know, not exactly a vintage or older Lodge piece, but still not brand new. And it fits just perfectly here on the modern Lodge Black Clock skillet. So it works just fine like that. I understand Lodge is producing lids for their Black Lock series, but I'm not in a hurry to get one for that reason because I have a couple of Lodge lids already and they will work just fine. So I have two Wagner glass lids, but no Wagner Dutch oven. Well, sooner or later you'll come across one. I've no doubt about that. I've actually seen them quite often, usually not in the greatest condition, or alternately selling at a ridiculous price. So, excuse me. So all we can do is keep on looking, of course. So I should have known. Oh, congrats on number 5 grandchild. Yes. Ms. French Twist, I found a Grizz number 9 cast iron lid. Well, again, congratulations on that. I mean, number 9 is, well, I shouldn't say unusual or rare, but it's definitely an unusual size for a Griswold or even Lodge. They do exist though. I have seen them, and in fact, I have a number 9 lid myself. I'm not trying to outdo you, but I mean, I think I told this story before that when I found my fancy handle skillet at Brimfield, it happened to have a number 9 Griswold lid atop of it, and so those two have been pretty much a pair ever since. But yes, this is a very nice lid, so I can definitely congratulate you on your score for that. And here's hoping you get a lot of good use out of it as well. So I'm having a hard time with my seasoning flaking off. Let me scroll back up on that one. That was Turner Fowler. I'm having a hard time with my seasoning flaking off. Do you have any ideas on how to stop this? Well, the best way, quite frankly, is to just keep on cooking with it. With some pans, if the seasoning is getting on to like a couple years old or more, then it's entirely possible that it could start flaking. Um, and in that instance, you could either strip it from scratch or just give it another coating of seasoning as is, which I've done with some of my pans already. So, just give it a quick coating of thin coating, that is, of like Crisco or your favorite oil, and bake it in the oven at 400 to 500 degrees for an hour. And that should at least help take care of the flaking problem for a while. So, is your redneck skillet the only Bass Pro you own? Do you have any other Lodge Bass Pro shops? I have one other Bass Pro shop Lodge pan, and let me see if I can find it. And here it is. It's an ashtray, in fact, an ashtray skillet, and it has the Bass Pro Shops logo on the front, on the inside, and the large egg logo on the back. But it's definitely before the 1990s, or 1990s at the latest, because it was an ashtray in that it actually has the cigarette rests on the side. Because during the 1990s, Lodge redesigned these tiny little skillets with much smaller pour spouts, and they now just sell them as spoon rests. But yes, this is in fact the only other Bass Pro Shops Lodge that I have here. I didn't go out of my way for it, but it was a nice score nonetheless. So, Handsome Stone, I scored a single notch Lodge, but it didn't have a size number. About a size 8. Any idea why a size number wouldn't have been on it? There have been some completely blank Lodge cast iron skillets seen over the years, and it sounds like you must have one of them. I have no explanation as to why some of them were blank. It could very well have been the same reason why we see other little error pans. It may be have been a mistake at the foundry, in that someone may have actually produced a pattern and forgot to and put the size number and the markings on it for whatever reason, and so it ended up producing a number of blank skillets. Because again, especially in those days, in the early 20th century, remember, these things here were considered just frying pans. The one consideration in terms of quality control is that it had to be decent enough for frying. And so if little things happen, like maybe A number was put on backwards. Some people have talked about the Monday morning lodge with the number 3 is backwards, or the little casting flaws we see with BSNR, or maybe even a blank lodge pan. None of that matters in terms of cooking. So as far as they're concerned, the worker just put it on the pile and go on to the next one. So as a result, we do see little pans with flaws like that. So that would be as good a guess as any on my part. So ashtrays, you guys are sloths. We're sloths. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by sloths, but yes, these things are indeed ashtrays, and they were made as ashtrays. And there are still a few of them out there that still have the original label on them that does say that they were ashtrays. When I posted a little video a couple of months ago on these ashtrays, and strangely enough, it was something of a I shouldn't say a hit, but I got a lot of hits on it. And a lot of people kept joking how I was pronouncing it ashtray. Oh, well, I'll live with that. Grapeseed oil is one of the best seasoning oils, in my opinion, and I would say probably because it has a very high smoke point. And is it flaking off on the bottom handle or wherever? And again, mentioning grapeseed oil. I believe you said make your own seasoning mix. Please disclose what you put in your seasoning mix. Well, yes, and it's been a few years. In fact, all I really did was I used a mixture of about I think it was 2/3 beeswax and 1/3 Crisco. Yeah, it must have been in that order because the other order it probably would have been too pliable and not solid enough. What is Mobley hissing at? Hold on, is something going on here? Excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mobley's hissing at something. I wonder if maybe another cat might have just come up onto our porch. I can't tell. Huh. But well, nonetheless, whoever it is, it took off. And I know it's not Trouble because Trouble's been going in and out. Anyway, but yes, as I said, I just simply mixed together about 2/3 beeswax and 1/3 Crisco. And it's done a fine job with seasoning, at least as far as I'm concerned. What is the smoke point of beeswax? And is it the same as Crisco? No, it's definitely not the same. Oh, the smoke point, you mean? I am not an expert. Wax melts very easily. I'm not so sure about the smoke point, but I mean, just simply melting the two of them together was not difficult at all. And as far as smoke points go, I've been doing my seasoning pretty much using the standard method. Where you start by heating the pan to 200 degrees and put your first coating on because that will melt it. And there's Trouble. Okay. Hi, Trouble. Hi, Mowgli. All right, I'm just keeping an eye on the cats. But oh yeah, let's do that at least. They are both over there, and they are both doing just fine. But anyway, what was I saying? Yes, that's right. The smoke point in was yeah, by heating to 200 degrees, and then after that, I wipe it off and heat it up to 300 degrees, wipe it off again, and then go to 400 degrees and leave it like that for at least an hour or an hour and a half. And I have not had any problem seasoning it in that manner. So I think that your burner is getting too hot. Well, there is that possibility too that it could indeed be burning off or affecting the seasoning in that way. And that's one thing I do have to say about my gas stove, in that I have noticed that the undersides of my pans after cooking, they definitely do have little flame marks on the bottom that do show where the flame directly contacted it. So far, it does not seem to have any effect really on the pans themselves, in that I can easily just give them a coating of Crisco after washing, and so far it still seems to be working just fine. So I'm still am not complaining about my gas stove. Billy, you made it. Hi, Jose and Billy. Yes, hello, everybody. Hello, Jose, and greetings, Billy. And hello to everybody who's kind enough to show up here. I'm very much appreciate anybody who is kind enough to drop by for a few minutes or so. Peg Truth must have left. Well, Mike, well, hopefully there are good reasons, and that's all I know, unfortunately. So, um, yeah. Oh yeah, the gazer. Yeah, let me do that again. In fact, yeah, yeah, it's actually I can't believe I've had this Stargazer for going on 4 years now. But the Stargazer actually has the very day and month that it was manufactured, and it says here 2019. What does that say? 0610. So this thing was actually manufactured on June 10th, 2019. So it is actually going to be almost 4 years old this coming June. Boy, time certainly flies, that's for sure. It took me a long time to get this thing into a decent condition too. It was really difficult to season, especially to season because the inside was so smooth. I probably seasoned it several times, but more importantly, kept on cooking in it. So this Stargazer here is finally actually doing pretty well. Although, as far as cooking is concerned, I have never had a problem with this thing. I mean, I really, really enjoy this Stargazer pan. So, I mean, I know a lot of folks, their favorite of the modern cast iron pans may be Field Company. I still have yet to have an opportunity to cook in a field, but I will see what happens there. Hmm. Oh, hi, Trouble. Yeah, these cats really are enjoying being able to go in and out. That's for sure. Is that a cast iron belt buckle you're wearing? Yeah. Unfortunately, no, it's not a cast iron belt buckle. It's just a metal belt buckle. But you know, the strange thing is, I found this at Walmart. I mean, I came across it one day, and it was one of those things you never see this at Walmart. So, of course, I had to grab it, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So, um, hate to say my age is catching with me, but I have a couple questions. Okay, thought of them about 4 hours ago. Well, that's all right. I know that feeling all too well. So basically, just ask your questions whenever they show up. So not to worry about that at all. Nonetheless, though, I mean, folks, feel free to keep on asking questions here because that's the whole point of this discussion here, as to whether or not it relates to your collection or my collection or just cast iron in general. That is, of course, what we're here to do to answer any questions. Do you have any John Wright cast iron? Yes, I do. I have a few of the John Wright pans, in fact. Let me bring out a couple. Might as well. Don't see why not. Ugh. Let's bring this over here. Ugh, clang, clang, clang. Okay. I looks like I have maybe five of them and here are two. This is heavy. Let me put this down over here for the moment. Mm. Here's one, and it looks like. Wonder what this white residue is. I guess I'm going to have to wash this off before I use it again. But this is one that some folks have seen, the John Wright Animal Cracker Pan. I'm not sure if it's an animal cracker pan, but it's definitely a nice wildlife animals pan. And here's the inside here, which it looks like I think I actually have to clean this thing up. So, and it definitely has the unique John Wright handle to it too. The other one I have over here uh, is their Christmas pan, one of their Christmas pans. Their Santa's sleigh, and it actually says in the bottom, a sleigh full of toys. So, yes. Yeah, the John Wright Company is in Pennsylvania. In fact, I'm thinking it probably isn't more than a couple of hours drive from where I am. I am really going to have to aim on doing a road trip out there one of these days. And, you know, maybe around the end of this month, that might not be a bad plan in itself. I don't. Yeah, that probably. I'm starting to think about it. In fact, so yeah, hit the like button. Well, thank you again. You wear gloves when you're cleaning and seasoning the cooking surface. If not, then you're cooking too much acidity or food. Well, there is that possibility as well. Yeah, today I finally cleaned my lamb mold. Yes, I did see that, Jose. Um, and from the experience I have of cooking, if you have not yet made a cake in that lamb mold, here's one thing I'd like to suggest. You know how I've got this way of cooking in cast iron by or baking in cast iron rather by preheating the mold before I put in the batter. It works great for cakes. It does not work that well for a lamb cake because apparently because that lamb cake is the iron completely surrounds the batter. Apparently that actually makes it too hot, and as a result, you definitely get a crust on that lamb cake, but unfortunately it shrinks. So as far as a lamb cake concerns is concerned, we're gonna have to go with the old grease and flour the mold method, and that's a suggestion I'd like to say. Electric stove, I think it makes the difference now. My Smithy 12-inch griddle came, and I love it. Congratulations, Rick Stumbow. And I've no doubt you'll get a lot of use out of that as well. So I really like the big cast iron pans. I only have a few pans with a heat ring, but I notice none of them spin. Is that a characteristic of heat ring pans? Well, I do recall seeing, and I think maybe at least one of my pans with heat rings does in fact spin. But because, of course, the heat ring extends down more than the bottom of the pan itself, that's usually why these you don't see a spinner with a heat ring. If you were to actually place it on something so that only the surface was contacting the surface of the pan, you might indeed still get it to spin. So yes, there can be spinners with heat rings. So my Erie skillet, for instance, is definitely a spinner, unfortunately. So there's one example for you. Okay, we have had good luck with preheating and oiling lamb mold. Works fine for us. Really? Well, in that case, maybe I might want to give it another try then. I must have done something wrong that first time when I overdid it. But I think I'll try it heating it up just to 350 and not going to the higher temperature that I usually do. You can always see how well that works. Also, I use a pound cake recipe for my lamb mold. If anybody has any other suggestions, I mean, I know I could use box cake mix, yes, and there's nothing wrong with using box cake mix. But I mean, if anybody has a suggestion of using something other than pound cake in their lamb mold, well, please say what you may have done. So, and I got an unmarked number 8 lid with a Volrath. Oh, nice. Congratulations there on that as well. So, hmm. Funny, I'm smelling something. I wonder if maybe we might have actually had a possum in the area because I'm actually smelling something. Well, let's just say it smells like musk. No, not a skunk, but more like musk. So I wonder if the cats may have run across a possum. Nonetheless, they're here in the kitchen and they're not hiding upstairs. So hopefully, if there is a possum, hopefully it just waddled on by. Papa Dan, if I remember correctly, my weakness is number 3. Is yes, indeed. How many do you have? Is BSR the greatest number in this size in your collection? Probably yes and yes. Right now, I have about 12 or 13 number 3s, and now that I have this number 6 Lady Bess, I guess that would probably add to the number 3 collection as well. But yeah, I have a Red Mountain number 3, I have a Century number 3, I have a 3S number 3. So I definitely have all of those. Not to mention a couple of Griswolds, a couple of Wagners, and several Lodge number 3 skillets as well. I believe I even have a favorite number 3 now that I'm thinking of it. So they tell me they don't tell me nothing. They know better. If I had a lamb mold, I'd try to make a cheesecake lamb. Well, that would be interesting. Yes, I certainly would say that, but I don't see how you could get the thing to stand up on its own, unfortunately. Okay, Alma, make it anyway. We will be there. I want to make a meatloaf in the lamb mold, but have been outvoted. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. In my freezer, in fact, I have a pound of ground up lamb. So I could make that in the lamb mold, but yes, I'm sure some people would probably object to that. Although you'd think that it would be a natural for it. When your smithy first came in, there beautifully. I have a number 10 smithy skillet. Oh, nice. And moving to San Antonio. Hello from Argentina. Hello, Miguel Alejandro Garrido, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, lamb is good. Yeah, lamb is good. Yes, long as you cook it right, so that it doesn't have that gamey taste. But it's definitely much more flavorful than some meats. For instance, I mean, I've had ground turkey a number of times, and ground turkey, especially when you buy it from the store, it's pretty bland. You definitely have to season it up. Lamb, on the other hand, goes good. I'm thinking probably with that pound of lamb, I might actually make a real shepherd's pie with lamb instead of ground beef. Yeah, I like lamb meat great in soup. Lamb is good. Yes, it is. Mm, I had trouble. All right, let's see what else. When I was further, the country, yeah, gaming is good. Any vintage foundries from your new home state? Um, Vintage foundries. I'm not sure if there are. I'm sure there were New York State foundries in the olden days, but I do not recall which ones they were. So I'm running blank. I seem to think that Rochester, New York, actually had a pretty good business as far as iron goes. Not necessarily iron skillets, but other things like maybe, for instance, tools. Probably tools. Now that I'm thinking of it, I seem to recall even today in seeing tools like wrenches and the like, for instance, at flea markets and so forth. And some of them actually do have a label on them or have the word Rochester on them. So there's one possibility there. Today, I bought a pound of ground lamb from Aldi and it was full of bone chips. Ouch, I'm sorry to hear that. Chemung, New York had a foundry. Yeah, well, there we go. That's one example for you. On the other hand, now New York has at least one modern day foundry, the Borough Furnace Foundry in the Hudson River Valley. That's been pointed out already. So, can you email me? Okay, I can certainly do that. And we'll see what happens. Yes, Borough Furnace. So, while Borough Furnace, they are very expensive because they, even for the elite cast iron pans, because they make all of their pans by hand. But well, I mean that's because of course they have to offset their costs. So actually, there's an excuse, I guess, for me to bring out another pan that I acquired recently. I think I mentioned this one recently. Speaking of New York, shall we say, you remember the American Skillet Company. They are the ones who made those cast iron pans in the shapes of all 50 states of the United States. And yeah, that's right, the New York skillet. Okay, let's bring that out. All right, first let's do this. Although they actually use little shavings here. Oh, you smell it too, don't you, Trouble? I mentioned there's something like a musky smell, and I think Trouble is smelling it as well. So, but nonetheless, here is the New York pan. Oops, don't want to drop this. And let me put this down, and let's bring it out. I guess there it is, and here we go. Here is the New York State pan. Oh, that's interesting. I just noticed here, it looks like it's got a seasoning flaw. Right here in the bottom here where it's seasoned, it looks like there's a little bubble here. Oh well, that shouldn't harm anything. But nonetheless, here is the New York State skillet, complete with Long Island here in the center. And this Long Island has a little divot, which may or may not be able to fit something like maybe a serrano pepper, for instance. Here's the handle that they use on this thing, and here is the back side of the skillet, which has the American Skillet logo on it, a nice simple logo. And as a matter of fact, I have a plan that I hope to actually film using this thing. Yeah, in fact, yeah, the seasoning is definitely coming off in this one place. Oops, maybe they can sell it as a seconds pan. But anyway, as I said, I'm going to be using this tomorrow night. In fact, I've got something nice and simple planned for it with a New York theme. But yes, here it is. Okay, what am I missing here? I keep forgetting to bring my own bags because they don't have any. Are you living in the New York Panhandle? Yeah, I guess you could say that. I'm actually living right about where this handle, yeah, the Panhandle. That's cute. Where the handle meets the pan. In fact, that's roughly more or less where I am living because, as I mentioned already, I am in the Binghamton area, and which is roughly about halfway between New York City and Buffalo. So we're talking right about here, but it's also right by the Pennsylvania border. Binghamton, as I found out, is like the largest city in New York that no one has ever heard of. People know about Albany and they know about Syracuse and Rochester and Buffalo, but not many people seem to know about Binghamton. Well, that's good, I guess. That helps give me some solitude. So let me put this down, and I can and make sure I haven't missed any of these comments here. Tip for everybody, says Papa Dan. Don't use parchment paper in your cast iron. I used it in non-cast iron pans for years. Makes it easy to get meatloaves out. Found and restored 2 large loaf pans, sweated and rusted under the parchment. Well, there is that. Yes. Also, it seems like people can often cook bread in cast iron. Bread, in particular, in a manner that it simply doesn't stick. And I can definitely say the same thing about making pizza as well, in that regardless of how easy it is to get the pizza out of the pan, I can't recall ever having a problem with pizza sticking in a pizza crust sticking in my cast iron pan. So that is certainly a good thing as well. So if you float down the Susquehanna River, it will take you right to Wrightsville. Yeah, the Susquehanna, that is quite an interesting river, that's for sure. In fact, the Susquehanna River is about maybe 200 yards or more from my home where I'm living right now. I am definitely elevated quite high above the level of the river. It's like the river is about here, and I am way up here. So I looked it up, by the way. I looked it up in regards to the flood risk of my home, and apparently it had been rated with a very low flood risk. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, I've seen the Susquehanna River when I visited Oneonta, and it's here. And I've seen the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh. So yeah, I've seen a fair amount of that river, that's for sure. Susquehanna weed. Never had breadstick to cast iron, but then I always lightly grease the pan. Well, there we go. Yes. Mokanaka, if I'm pronouncing that right, or is it Mokanakwa? Oh, mud. Oh, yeah, Mudbrooker. Yes. Yeah, Mudbrooker. That's right. I still have to sign up for StreamYard. I was hoping to do that today, and I'm hoping to make arrangements so that we can try this dual thing maybe next week or so. And I'll have to get to you as soon as as soon as I can on that. What do you cook on your flat skillet with no sides? That would be a griddle. And let me bring one out, in fact. Here is one small griddle, although actually this one is also a comal. It's made in Mexico. And what do you cook on it? You can cook a whole bunch of things on this. You can make tortillas. You can, of course, do pancakes and eggs and pizzas, of course. You can definitely do pizzas in a pan like this. So there are many things you can make in a cast iron griddle with no sides. I seen on the large site they're making different flavors of cornbread mixes. Hopefully they will ship to Canada. That would be nice. Yes. Did pork roll on it today. Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about the griddles is they make a good baking sheet as well. So anything you can bake on a baking sheet, you can bake on a griddle. That includes pizza, but it all could also include cookies, for instance. Instead of using a cookie sheet, you could bake it on cast iron. I don't know where Susquehanna is, but I like the name. It rolls right off. Well, the Susquehanna is actually, as I found out, is a pretty famous river. You could even look it up on Wikipedia if you like. And I should probably do that myself. Okay, going down here. What else? I seen on the lodge site. Yeah, we mentioned that one. Never had breadstick. I was hoping you lived in a New York town with an unpronounceable Dutch name. No, well, Binghamton seems to be hard enough for people to pronounce it, in fact. I was sent on a road trip to Chicago a couple of weeks ago. And so I had to fly there, which meant I went from Binghamton Airport to New York to Chicago. And then on the way back home, the pilot announced, welcome, welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, on our flight to uh, Binghamton. So it seems like Binghamton is hard enough to pronounce for a lot of people. And still going here. Noodling. I use paper towels to wick up moisture and large tab lids for the Dutch oven lids. Yeah, isn't the Susquehanna the river that caught fire back in the 70s? Yeah, I think I heard about that one. Apparently, there was like a fuel leak or something, and that ended up just that with the river apparently catching fire. Have you ever run across a cast iron 9-inch with a straight up edge of 2 inches? I have one close to 200 years old. My grandmother's mother started housekeeping with it. Um, well, in those days, of course, when cast iron was often made by individuals or very, very small foundries, I mean, there were no real standards. And so they made them in pretty much any size that you could think of. Um, at least until at least until they started becoming standardized when cooking stoves were introduced, and then of course we get into things like the fancy no the famous gate mark uh, teardrop shape hand patterns. But I couldn't say specifically about the type of pan you're talking about. I mean, 9 inches wide in diameter and 2 inches tall. That's a nice size. I'm betting it must have been a spider skillet, though. In fact, if it was 200 years old, so might even have nubs on the bottom if the legs had been removed at some point. If you were in the South, that musk smell could be mad cottonmouth snake. Don't think they're in your area, but maybe another type of snake has musk smell up there. I know very little about snakes making a musk smell, I'm afraid. I do know that possums do a musk smell. That's why I was thinking more like a possum, I've seen a fair number of them. I don't recall seeing one here in the last several months, but I've seen them quite a few times in Massachusetts and New York, so I don't think it's out of the question at all. Either way, the cats don't seem to mind too much. I mean, they do look like they're a little on edge, probably because of it, but they're not hiding upstairs, so I'm taking that as a good sign. And then snakes smell too, so satanic snakes. Copperheads smell like cucumbers. Copperheads smell like cantaloupes. Okay, but what do they taste like? I'm sure people have eaten them. I try to stay away from snakes. Yeah, I don't blame you at all for that. All right. Moving right along, I guess. Okay. Copperhead. Yeah, don't have a musk smell. That's a cotton mouth. Well, I believe cottonmouth is a water snake. Although, granted, I did see him by the banks of the Susquehanna. However, I still don't think I'm in the environment where there would be many water snakes of that kind. Copperheads taste like chicken, of course. Well, there's no surprise. Hmm. All right. getting on here. Let's see what else we can see here. Yeah, that's right. With the 9-inch pan, no other markings visible. If you said that your 200-year-old pan had no markings visible, I would think it would have at least had a gate mark on the bottom, or at least that's my guess. Do you have a heart-shaped griddle hanging there? As a matter of fact, not a griddle, but somewhere in here. Where do I have that? I have one of those tiny Walmart cookie pans that is in fact heart shaped. Oh, I think I see it over here. Clang, clang, clang. Nope, that's not it. That's Star Wars. Okay. I know I have it around here somewhere, or maybe it's in plain view. But I know I do have a heart-shaped cast iron cookie pan. Yes. I'm just having a little trouble finding it at the moment. Although here's an interesting one. This isn't exactly heart-shaped, but this is nice nonetheless. This is one I found at TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and I found it like maybe about 3 or 4 days before Christmas one year for $5. I have yet to find another one, unfortunately. Okay, they got some big old catfish in them rivers. I found a Darth Vader cookie pan about a month ago. Congratulations. I mean, granted, they were producing Darth Vader even last year, and they'll probably continue producing him, but Darth Darth Vader is definitely going to be popular. I believe we've got 4 different Star Wars cast iron pans. The first year, yeah, they've been doing the Star Wars cast iron pans for 3 years. The first year they did Darth Vader and BB-8, the droid from the new movies, and Darth Vader sold out that first year. BB-8 did not. Last year or the next year they had Darth Vader and Baby Yoda, I forget his name, from the Mandalorian. That year Darth Vader did not sell out and the Mandalorian did sell out. Last year, 2022, they had 3 Star Wars skillets: Darth Vader again, the Mandalorian again, and Boba Fett. And I'm not sure which one of them sold out. So, yeah, that's a Grogu. So far they have a total of 4 of those Star Wars skillets, and of course, well, when the holidays come this year, we'll see whether or not they may do yet another one. Do you have any Martin stove and range cast iron or favorite Piqua? I do not have any Martin. I once came across a Martin number 8, a hamburger logo pen, in fact. That was, wow, going on 10 years ago. And I came across that one at a church thrift shop. So after I cleaned it up, I actually took it on a road trip with me to Arkansas to the National Dutch Oven Gathering of that year, 2013. And in that time, I gave that Martin away to my host, who had been kind enough to go with me to the Dutch Oven Festival. But I have not found another Martin myself out in the wild, unfortunately. Well, actually, in a way, that's not true. Because one thing I did find out, let me dig this up as quickly as I can. Yeah, and here we are. Apparently, these ashtray skillets, these ones with these ones that are very wide and deep, these ashtray skillets, I understand, were actually made by Martin Stove and Range. So even though I happen to have 2 with the BSR logo on them, one that says Birmingham Stove and Range and one that says Atlanta Stoveworks, let me do that here. Apparently, these things were actually made by Martin. But these are the only Martin stove pans that I have. As far as favorite I have two favorite pans. One is a favorite number three. In fact, I have it in my I have it in my number three collection. The other is the one that I have mentioned a couple of times, and that is my grandmother's skillet. That is the diamond number eight. You know, the one that the blank cast iron pan that has a nothing but a number eight in a diamond on it, and it's believed that that may have been among the last series of cast iron pans either made by Favorite or maybe even made by Chicago Hardware Foundry when Chicago Hardware Foundry bought out Favorite. Let me see if I can actually dig that up. Is this it? No, I think that was my Canada skillet. But no, actually, that may very well be. Sorry for the delay. I'm trying to identify this thing as best as I can. Well, anyway, I won't waste too much time. But nonetheless, those are my only favorite skillets. So my favorite collection is actually very small, I'm afraid. Now, love the handle design on the Mart lids. Yeah, they were very elaborate, weren't they? How much total weight is that floor holding? You know, I have not measured it, but I have no idea. I have no doubt that it's a lot. That's one reason why I spread this collection out. In fact, in my other apartment, I had everything here on one six rack shelf, but especially to distribute the weight, I spread it out more. And so far, at least, it looks like it's doing just fine. So, which cast iron would you consider the rarest in your collection? Ooh, um, well, I'm not even sure if the savory cauldron could be considered rare because you can see them in a number of places. They're usually ridiculously expensive, but you've been able to find them. I mentioned already I have an Erie number eight. Going through my collection as quickly as I can. Hmm. Probably it might actually be this new idea lid that I've mentioned once or twice. I even made cornbread in this a couple of months ago as well. That may be considered rare. I suppose if there's anything that can be considered rare, it's actually one of my modern day pans, and that is this one here from Solid Technics. If anybody remembers Solid Technics, from Australia, there it is. Because this one was, how about this? This is the 12 inch or actually 30 centimeter so called big skillet that Solid Technics made about 2015 or 2016 or so. And I was absolutely shocked when this actually was sent to me as a Christmas present one year. And then shortly after that, Solid Technics stopped their cast iron production. As you know now, Solid Technics, they concentrate entirely on carbon steel and what's the other one? I think forged iron or something like that. And yeah, so they are no longer making this. So I guess you could say this would be a collector's item in that respect. What I really like, one of the things I like about this is the fact that another rare piece of that I do have does happen to fit on this like a glove. And that other rare piece I would say would be this, a BSNR 13-inch camp oven lid. So I suppose in terms of rare, this may very well be one of them. So yeah, I do have a few pieces in my collection, I guess, that can be considered rare, and I'm very proud to own them. But all of these were lucky scores, so it's like I have not gone out of my way really Well, yes and no went out of my way. I mean, as I said, this particular one here was a Christmas present, so I certainly wasn't expecting it, and I ended up getting the BSR number 13 before I realized what it was. So, I mean, I have friends in the cast iron community who I've seen who actually do own things like a Griswold number 13 or a number 11, and there's even someone who has an Erie spider skillet. But I have not been fortunate enough to acquire one of those. So, anything we should keep our eyes out for you? Well, thank you very much. I'm very flattered. If there's anything I would ask somebody to keep an eye out for, it would probably be a BSNR Red Mountain Series camp oven. Those things are as rare as hen's teeth, probably even more rare than things like the Erie spider skillet. But because they're a lot less known, I don't think they'll ever go for the price of an Erie spider skillet. But and I'm talking specifically about the Red Mountain series of BSNR camp ovens. BSNR Century Series camp ovens are out there, and a number of people have them. Likewise, BSNR Red Mountain Series spiders are also out there, and we've seen people with them. But the camp ovens specifically that they made in their Red Mountain series are so rare. I've only seen photos of them on the internet, and I think only once. So that's why I would consider that to be extremely rare. Separated or one rack altogether? These used to be one rack. Back in and again, it was about 2019, right after I moved from Marlborough to Worcester in Massachusetts. I actually got a decent deal on Amazon. I think it was about $75 for this huge rack here that has 6 shelves to it, and that was good enough to fit the majority of my collection. But it was, in fact, one rack. And then when I moved out here, as I mentioned, especially since I have the space for it now, I split it into 2 racks, and that's why it's more spread out here. And I think I made the right decision for that too. So I don't have an extra room all used by someone. Well, yeah, that's just it. If you're lucky enough to have a big family, then yeah, you probably don't have room for a cast iron collection like this. I am actually very grateful or glad or proud that I managed to find this home here that has so much room. And I still want to do my best not to fill it up with junk and not to become a hoarder. But on the other hand, it has a lot of room for my collection, and I'm very happy about that. All right, you were correct, Mud Nanner. Martin has gotten outrageous lately. Everything has gotten outrageous lately. I mean, I mean, we all know that there's been a cast iron renaissance over the past decade or so, where just about everything in cast iron really has become more valuable. And of course, as you know, antique vendors now, it's like they consider cast iron to be made of gold, pretty much no matter what it is. As long as they say it's a vintage cast iron pan, they'll usually slap a ridiculous price on it. And you can even go in with, like, say, the most favorite brand, Griswold. It used to be that collectors and presumably vendors would have known that the small logo Griswold is supposedly less valuable to collectors, supposedly, than the large logo Griswold. And then there is the Wagwald, or the Grizz Wagner, the dual logo pens that were made is the Wagner Foundry after, in the 1960s, the ones that had the Wagner and Griswold logo on them. Those are also generally considered to be poor quality, but not anymore. Anything with a Griswold logo these days, you can bet they're going to slap a ridiculous price on it. I mean, we're talking like 65, 75, $100 for a Griswold ashtray. Pretty much, and if it says Griswold, they'll just go crazy. All right, are we still doing a double feature with Mudbrooker? Actually, yes, I would very much like to do so. In fact, I think I'd like to try to set a deadline, if the Mudbrooker is willing to do so, that we could do this next week. And I guess I'll really leave it up to him. Hi, Trouble. I don't want you knocking that over. And I guess I'll leave it up to him if he wants to do this on Tuesday, which seems to be his night, or Wednesday, which is my night. Or who knows, maybe we could even do both. But we'll see from there. Okay, yeah, we'll aim for next week. All right, I just have to sign up for StreamYards, and then I really need to figure out how to use it. So I will dedicate myself to doing that. So the only Dixie I've ever seen is online. Would love to find one to look at it. I have a Grizz Wag popover pen. It works fine. Oh yeah, they work fine. Just about anything in cast iron is gonna cook just great. Like for instance, the last series of Wagner pans, the Wagner 1891 series. They're generally considered to be poor quality because they have rough casting and they tended to warp as well. And yet, even so, they are still just fine for cooking. So pretty much anything cast iron will do a great job in your cooking. And we've even talked about enough times Asian made cast iron as well. So that's one of the many good things about cast iron. One thing that I like about it, that just about anything will cook in cast iron. So how do you feel about modern new Lodge cast iron cookware? I love it. I've got more modern day Lodge than I know what to do with. Um, some of it, I admit, I got really just because of the logos. I mean, I've got a stack here, unfortunately, of Cracker Barrel and special Lodge cast iron skillets, unfortunately. I just received the Lodge casserole pan for Christmas. I have the Lodge Legacy Series fish fryer pan, that huge pan that once I did make a huge lasagna in it. I've got one of their Blacklock skillets. I've mentioned already that my very first cast iron pan that I still use on a fairly regular basis is a Lodge modern day 10-inch cast iron skillet, which I call my redneck pan. They're all great pans and they're all great for cooking. I am very much in the camp that does not agree with the people who say that modern day Lodge pans are poor quality because of their rough surface. I do not have any problem at all with cooking in a modern day Lodge pan, and I don't think I ever have. So I literally had the most bestest, loveliest, prettiest Grizz ever made for my friend and family. Well, congratulations for that. Jimmy Langford, I've seen modern Lodge skillets in antique stores. Yeah, it will say rare, hard to find skillet. Yes, there's a flea market right in my area that I go to almost weekly, largely because there don't seem to be any other flea markets in the area. That the vendors there, there's one vendor who has just that, a modern day Lodge skillet that still needs to be cleaned up, and it's sitting there at his booth with a $30 price tag on it, even though you could get the same thing brand new from Wally World for 20 bucks, or you could probably even get it at TJ Maxx or Marshalls for 15 bucks. So, but hey, I'm not the one who sets the prices. On the other hand, I have found a couple of good pieces of cast iron at that flea market. That's one reason why I keep going back there. The milled 1891 Wagners are pretty good pans. Yes, exactly. That's what that's what I mean. That if you have one of those, use it with pride. I mean, I really can't think of anything in terms of cast iron cookware that I would be embarrassed to own. And likewise for anybody, whether or not you have one Lodge pan or you have one made in Asia pan, or you've got a big collection like this, they're all great. They're all great kitchen users. Heck, let me dig out this other pan that I have. Yeah, in fact, I only acquired just this year. No, last year now, from Brimfield. In fact, This is a Chinese-made cast iron skillet. It's got the logo on it that says basic, and it's actually pretty well known to cast iron collectors. It's definitely modern, and it's definitely made in China. I got this because I like the shape of it. I like the look of it. It's got an unusual shape. This thing is so unusual that I could actually see this being used as a movie prop in some movie or another. So that, and I have to admit that's about the main reason why I got this thing. But it's made in China, and I don't have any problem with displaying that. The only problem with Asian made cast iron, especially Chinese cast iron, the only problem with it is the politics. And I do my best not to get into cast iron politics. I'm generally not interested in politics where cast iron is concerned. I guess what I have said many times and will continue to say, well, two things about Asian made cast iron. Number one, it's safe for cooking. Asian made cast iron does not have lead or depleted uranium or made with melted engine parts. Well, it might have been made with melted engine parts, but they certainly do they do refine it. I mean, after all, again, cast I mean uh, cast iron refinery methods have been known for centuries, and there's nothing secret about that, which is why Asian made cast iron is safe. Even if you don't like Asian made cast iron because of the politics, it's still safe for cooking. So that's one thing I say a lot about Asian made cast iron. The other thing I say about Asian made cast iron is this: if you find an Asian made cast iron at a thrift store, at a church, at a church thrift store, or at Goodwill, or at a flea market, or at an estate sale, if you get yourself an Asian made cast iron pan there, where's your money going to go? Is it going to go back to China? No. It's going to go to whoever runs that church thrift store or that estate sale. So no, China is not going to benefit if we buy used Asian cast iron pans that have already been used here in the United States. And that's about all I can say about that. Yeah, all cast iron uses scrap engine blocks, old cast iron pipe, you name it. Yes, exactly. That's the point. And it's refined because refining is actually an easier process. In fact, I only learned recently that the century-old technique of refining cast iron as it's being molded, they call it the Bessemer process. Apparently, the newest manufacturers, and that would probably include Lodge, they actually don't use that. Apparently, they have newer methods now that can actually refine the iron even more and produce even more pure or purer grade cast iron. So in that respect, I guess you could say that again, Lodge and probably a number of the other new manufacturers, they are probably producing higher grade cast iron today than were ever produced in the vintage era, even by Griswold. Of course, since Griswold polished their pans to a smooth surface, whereas Lodge has their own reasons for producing their kind of pans, it's likely that people will probably always say that Lodge cast iron is not so great because of a rough surface, unfortunately. And yet, if you look at all of these these low cost cast iron pans now, the ones that they sell on Amazon and other online places like Utopia Kitchen and a couple of others, they're made in Asia, yes, but the other thing is that they're inexpensive. And just about all of them are carbon copies of Lodge pans. They look like Lodge pans. In fact, even Walmart brand Ozark Trail, they look like Lodge pans. But Ozark Trail is definitely a case of you get what you pay for. You can cook just fine in an Ozark Trail pan, but I have heard reports, in fact, even from a person I bought an Ozark Trail griddle for, of those things prematurely cracking and breaking. So yes, we had several times in Gradson's Lodge Super. Oh yeah, the sugar skull pan. Yes, that was pretty good. So yeah, I'm glad I acquired that one. So my first cast iron skillet was made in China, and I love using it. It's a 9-inch skillet. There's nothing wrong with it. I got it at a box store. Yes, exactly. That's the point. There's nothing wrong at all with you using it, and as you say, you've gotten a lot of use out of it, and I dare say you probably got it cheap. So you've certainly more than gotten your money back or your money's worth from it. So there we go. Mainstays, the Walmart brand is identical to Lod. Yes, that's that's what we mean. Although, I mean, when they talk about rough surfaces, definitely the Asian-made brands are rougher than modern day Lodge. So there is another argument that can go on again and again and again. The cauldron on the top shelf. Where did that come from? Oh, you're talking about this one again. Here, let me lay this thing down flat. This again is the South African poiki pot. And this thing is very heavy and very thick. Oh boy, but I love using this thing, that's for sure. This again is, as I said, it's from South Africa. It's actually Asian made and then imported into South Africa, ugh, and then imported again into the United States. Because the last African manufacturer of cast iron cookware, Falkirk, they went out of business completely somewhere around maybe 2010 or so, which means that all of the cast iron cookware that they produced for South African use, including this one, is Asian made. And that's how it goes. If Lodge had gone out of business, which I know there was a time when they may very well have, if Lodge had gone out of business, we would be in the same situation here in the United States. The only cast iron being made would have been from Asia or Europe. But fortunately, Lodge managed to persevere. And now, as they say, Lodge is apparently having its best business ever. So congratulations to Lodge for that. All right, going on as well. I really love this. I really love this cauldron as well. And yeah, these poiki pots, they're very popular as well because of their look, because they look like vintage cast iron cauldrons or witches cauldrons or gypsy pots, if you prefer. And yeah, a lot of people get them just for those looks, and I don't blame them at all. So, and as I mentioned already, it's pronounced Poiki. And yes, I've had people from South Africa correct me on that, and that is actually how they pronounce it. Even though the spelling looks like Pudgy, it's actually pronounced Poiki. And so I make a point of always doing that, especially compared to Mexican or Asian cast iron. Yes. Yeah, I do have one made in Mexico griddle as well. Someone on this channel has been mentioning several times Victoria cast iron, which is made in Venezuela. In fact, I have not yet been lucky enough to own a Victoria cast iron skillet. Maybe one of these days. But I have so many freaking skillets in my collection here that I really do not have a need for another one. And really, it's like the only reason I would acquire another cast iron pan is, well, there are reasons, but it's not generally not because I need another one. I mean, after all, I did not need this Lady Best pan, but I am very, very glad to own it for other reasons as well. Likewise, I did not need this USA shaped cast iron pan here, but I am very glad to own it nonetheless. I came across this one on my birthday, in fact. So I certainly do consider this to be a very special pan. This one is Asian made, in fact, and it was made for Marshalls and TJ Maxx. This company here, Smith and Clark Ironworks. They are not a new American foundry. They are, in fact, just a company that produces housewares for TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And this one just happens to be a cast iron pan. But I'm very glad to have found it for $10, in fact. And yeah, I have no intention of getting rid of it. That's for sure. Oh, happy belated birthday. Well, thank you very much. That was in November. So thank you. Bessemer uses oxygen to burn off the impurities, add carbon, and stop it before it all burns off, and you have steel. Keep going, and you'll have purified iron. Yes, exactly. What are the current odds that you won't get another piece of cast iron? Oh, I'd say zero. I'm sure something is going to come up in some way or another. I mean, heck, the next time I go on a road trip, maybe I'll find something that just happens to be a really good bargain. Um, like maybe at a flea market, I might find one of those pans that is so has such a thick rock hard coating of grit and seasoning encrusted on it, and they might be selling it for $5 or something. Yeah, I'll pick it up. That's the type of thing I love. You can just throw it in the lye tank and see what you come up with. So, and it's because of that that I ended up with a give it away pile. In that I have a small pile of cast iron pans that right now is sitting in the corner here. And should the opportunity arise where maybe I can give somebody a cast iron pan, then it'll be there and I'll be able to do that. So, cast iron welding tools. Yeah, those are the best to find. Yes, exactly. Those are the best to find. That's what I mean. That's why I have no doubt whatsoever that even though I keep telling myself I don't need any more skillets, I don't need any more skillets, I'm pretty sure in some way or another I may end up acquiring another skillet. Oh, but that's why they call it cast ironitis. And I don't have any other answer for that. All right, unknown pans are the most fun. Exactly. So I always say no more, and then I find something. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Cast ironitis. It's a disease. Oh, it's like an addiction, and that's why I've just got to do my best to try to keep using these things, and that at least will give me an excuse for having a collection like this. Really don't have much else to say for that. I got an artistic logo Erie that way. Could tell it was old, but then that was all until it was stripped. I know what you mean by artistic logo. You're talking about the Erie series that had that really fancy script Erie. The same script that the Erie spider skillet was made with, in fact, although I guess your pan does not have a spider logo on it. Cast iron is my crack. Yes, exactly. So, oh, and wow, has it already been an hour and a half? Yeah, kind of wavy script. Yup. So, boy, I'm surprised that we've actually managed to go this far here. So, and that's what I mean. I could probably keep talking about this for who knows how much longer, except that, well, number one, it is a work night, and we can't stay here forever, unfortunately, because most of us do have to go to bed, including me. And number two, I'll have something to talk about the next time we do something like this. I mean, heck, I've got I can talk about old Stumpy, my number 14. I can talk about my BSNR deep fryers, fryers plural. And then there's my BSNR Dutch oven that I managed to acquire about a month ago. So yeah, definitely have things to talk about, and I think we'll probably have to save that for last time. Papa Dan, last skillet that I got is smooth bottom. It has an incised 6 on its handle with big ears. I think it's possibly a Wagner, but it's heavy. So cruddy that you can't tell anything about it. Well, then in that case, better drop it in the lye tank. So, but as I said, I think it's probably time to move on here because, well, again, we have things to do. I've got a project for tomorrow night to use that New York pan. And then, of course, we've got Easter weekend coming up, where a lot of us do some special cooking. And while cooking ham in your cast iron is great, I mean, cooking anything in your cast iron is great. There's so many other things that we can do on Easter as well. Here's one thing, by the way. I like to use my Easter. I like to use my Dutch ovens as Easter baskets. So, and having said all that, yeah, I knew I had it bad finding myself. Yeah, there's a Jimmy Dean's sausage commercial has a number 8 Wagner in it. Oh yeah, there we go. That's kind of what I meant. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about too. But I'd say it's probably time to get going here because yeah, live tomorrow night. I'll see what I can do. But on the other hand, isn't tomorrow night Louis' night for going live? You can always check him out. Louis J. Cast Iron Cooking. He usually does his cooking live on Thursdays. So we'll see. We can always see how that turns out. Anyway, and thank you very much as well, Clico. And yeah, next week, as I said, I am going to aim for doing this live with the Mudbrooker, and we'll see how that all turns out. But thank you everybody as well for showing up, because as I say every week, and I mean it every week, it's you folks who make these live videos so much fun here. Just be, your comments and your snarky comments, and yeah, the snarky comments too, and the conversation, and just the knowing that I'm here with you folks and not really doing this alone. That actually does make this something special. So I can only thank everybody so much for being here. William Hurt and Clico, Cynthia Wesley, Chris McGee, and Papa Dan. Yeah, Louis J. Cast Iron Cooking. Louis, who has a show. Exactly. Alma Wasilewski, the person right above you. Louis J. Cast Iron Cooking. Thank you. And thank you very much for coming into my home as well. So, and thank everybody for showing up here because these things are a lot of fun. And I can only hope I've done my best to entertain you folks as well because, well, there's always more to be said and more to be done. And of course, there's always more cooking ahead of us. So thank you, everybody. And we will just sign off and we will just continue next week and see what happens next. So thank you, everybody. And as I like to say, have a good evening and see you next Wednesday.